I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
Anisha Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? MMAzing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host and reigning champion, Dr. Law. With me, as always, DJ Mark.
I usually just say what's up, Bob, but you got to roll that belt right off. We all just missed. We're all 0-1 right now, and you're holding that belt like
let me tell you, buddy,
proud of this week.
I'm still the champ, baby. Still the champ.
Yeah, so far we're 0% on calling fights. So I
noticed
just a second.
The betting community didn't do well.
Definitely not for vanity's sake, but I noticed that last week when Bobby put up the picks, he put a nice little tidy C next to his name now.
That's what I used to do when I did this. I actually put some effort into this thing, Mike. Now, returning, the man who slayed COVID in like a week, which isn't bad. The good numbers right there. He slayed it, you know. Wasn't quite the 2 days Matt Jackson was proclaiming on Dynamite the other day. But, you know, Mike here, not a professional athlete, so a week is excellent work. Lavender Gooms is back, folks.
I would like to say that for the remainder of this podcast and until next week's show, I would like to not be called Lavender Gooms, but Corona Gooms.
Corona Gooms.
All right, since we use these nicknames often.
Yeah, these names definitely come up often on this show. Yeah, you know what's interesting? I listen to the Pat McAfee show a lot, and they have a guy on the show who really on in the pandemic got COVID, and he came back and he started picking games really well. Like he's like his gambling and stuff was excellent. They started calling him the COVID cowboy because he strolled back in like a cowboy, just took care of business. Very much the opposite for Mike, because getting COVID, motherfucker still can't pick a fight, huh?
Well, again.
I just want to say Mike was real. Excuse. Mike was real like, oh, it starts today. Oh, this is it. This is the one. Oh, you know.
Well, I never said I was going to get every fight right. I said I was going to beat the two of you. So all I had to do is be one fight better than you guys.
I mean, you had a chance to be one fight better than us this week, and it didn't go so well.
I mean, for any of us, we're changing the narrative here. We all really did bad. Again, we only picked one fight.
The champ shows up for the playoffs, man. You know, it's week one. So I'll be in later.
and also, I mean, a lot of people pick Giga. So
true.
Yeah, honestly, we all got a bit on that. Everybody got on that hype train. So I really think, like, man, we didn't see Calvin Kattar for a year, and it wasn't like it went out like on a good note. Like he took the biggest beating in the history of the sport, possibly in history of the UFC at least. But the fight itself, I saw how well the NFL did this weekend, so I don't think people were watching this fight in general. But it was good, man. I love elbows. I love standing elbows. And Calvin really did great work with that. Some beautiful, beautiful techniques. You can see, especially people saw the GIFs going around Twitter or Instagram and the short clips. I mean, Giga was game, but Giga got beat up. Giga also said that if this fight happened 10 times, he would have won 9 of them, which is a bold claim. Giga was talking a lot of shit going into this fight, how he should be fighting for the title already, and why is he fighting the number 5 guy and all that stuff. And people have been looking at Giga's record and a lot of his wins over some not so good people.
It's really ballsy, and probably the reason why he's a professional fighter and I'm not, that he has the confidence to say 9 out of 10 times I win. This is the one that I lost, and his face looked like how it looked.
Yeah. And Calvin, didn't really begrudge him. He's like, yeah, man, if he thinks that, he thinks that. It's fine. Year off, though, for the man, Marcus. Top 5 featherweight. Still a top 5 featherweight. Showed everybody right there.
Yeah, no, he really corrected course. And, I'm not going to play silly here. Like, I did not watch the fight, so all I have to go off of is what I heard. But what I heard is that he had a really good performance, and like you said, coming off a really devastating loss to Max Holloway, where Holloway was clowning him. He was on the receiving end of those gifts where Holloway is yelling at the announce table and hitting him with jabs and stuff. It was probably easily his worst performance, his worst look in the octagon, like you said, potentially getting the worst beating that's ever been received in the UFC, at least by punch count numbers. To come back and fight someone like Giga, and not just to win the fight, but to win the fight in the fashion that he did, stand up, where that's Giga's bread and butter. This is why the fight was, highly regarded, and we expected to have a good, exciting fight because these guys are two stand-up fighters. If he would have won this fight by implementing, a clinch game and ground game, it still would have been impressive because it's an impressive scalp to get, an undefeated fighter like that. But to win in the fashion that he did, to just basically outclass your fighter in his best attributes, is a really good course correction for him. And I think now he can kind of put that Max Holloway fight in the rear view and just say like, okay, that fight didn't go well. I've corrected course. I've beaten a highly regarded prospect. And I'm a top contender in this weight division.
Yeah, and also,
so it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here.
I feel like the numbers kind of got run up in that fight too. I think we talked about it at the time that if your guy is getting beat up that badly, like, they probably should have stopped that thing like a while ago in that damn Max Holloway fight, honestly. Like, what? That's just a whole different conversation about, the corner's responsibility. But Calvin winning like this was really big for him. And Giga will be good for Giga too, man. You go back, get humbled a little bit. Let's see what's up with him. Other big fights on this card, there were none. But relevant fighters that won. Brandon Royville got another W there. Jake Collier got a win over Chase Sherman. Actually got a finish in that on a card that really was lacking finishes. And Caitlin Chukasian won yet again. But do you know what the UFC said at the end of this fight, Mark? Your services aren't needed anymore.
Yeah, you're good.
You're good.
You title shot.
Yeah, you got your title shot. You lost. You set some sort of record for number of wins with a decision or something in the UFC. But with a UFC record of... Oh, she's been here a while. 10-4. They are not interested in retaining one of the best 125-pound fighters in the world, honestly. I mean, she is.
Well, I mean, makes sense. The UFC had a really tough financial year, so they got,
Well, I mean, look, the UFC always says their job is to their job is to find contenders, right? And the way you stick around, if you're not a contender, is you make people care about your fights. And it's really hard to do that. And look, I like Caitlin Chukasian. She has one of my favorite nicknames in MMA, Blonde Fighter. But her fights aren't that exciting. Her most exciting fights are the ones where they go horribly wrong for her. But she's really tough, and honestly, it's one of those things where Bellator better sign her. If I'm supposed to take Bellator serious as an organization, you're going to have to sign people like this. Just my 2 cents. The concept of taking Bellator serious as an organization, Mike made a half smirk because he's like, what, we do that? We take Bellator serious as an organization? So yeah, let's get into some of the news of this week because, as we mentioned, this card was not worth anybody's time. And I needed confirmation that it was good before I watched it. This fight, at least. I guess the biggest news is we got a whole bunch of fights announced last week that Mark and I spent a lot of time talking about, and then a bunch of shit got moved around. And it sounds like first Max got hurt. I think we talked about Max getting hurt, didn't we, or not? I don't know.
Honestly,
if we did.
Don't recall if that.
So Max Holloway Volkanovski 3 got booked, and then Max got hurt 2 days later, and then there was a big push to see who could fight him. And some of us were waving the flag of Triple C. That was me. I was one of those people. And we'll talk about that in a minute here. Ultimately, what came out is a Korean Zombie is going to take on Volkanovski. And the fight got pushed back a month. Mike, that just sounds like a good time. Volkanovski and Zombie, huh?
Yeah, it does. I think it'll be an entertaining fight. But then I guess the question you just got to ask is, does Zombie really have a chance against Volkanovski?
Yeah, it's hard when, like, we saw Volkanovski put on a clinic against, or I know we're doing MMA math, but Volkanovski put on a clinic, Marcus, against Ortega. And then Ortega, whooped Zombie's ass on his feet, too. So, I don't know. A fight that's on the feet is going to be, I think, difficult for Zombie to win this one. And that tends to be how he fights in general. So, we're going to have to see.
If he can get it to the mat, that could change things.
We're going to see that twister,
Zombie,
baby.
Yeah. be really proficient on the ground. So, but I think Volkanovski's also, he knows what's going on down there, and he's masterful at negating the fight ever going there. I don't really recall a lot of times seeing him on his back or even on the ground at all. So,
well, just that
interesting
Ortega
there.
third round, which
That
somehow he
did
got out
not
of that
go
shit.
super
Somehow he got
well
out of
for
that,
him,
though.
but he did
got
survive.
out of it. Yeah,
He did, and he did some punishment on top too. So yeah, the good caveats there as well.
So I'm bringing up Cejudo, because Cejudo wanted this fight for a while. He wanted an opportunity to go after another belt. And Dana White said some stuff like, "Oh, we don't do stuff like that. We don't let you just come out of retirement and fight for a championship." And it's like, GSP did this.
All right, come on, guys. We know what's up here. Like, we all can try to pretend like this is apples to apples, but this shit ain't apples to apples. All right, this is cash to cash. All right. The reason why GSP was able to do that is because he's a pay-per-view draw. No one gives a shit about Henry Cejudo.
I mean, no one gives a shit about Alexander Volkanovski either. I think the concept of an Olympic... Why? Also, man, the guy won an Olympic gold medal. Okay, held 2 titles, and he did good numbers. He did good numbers, him and TJ.
What's good?
Huh?
What's good numbers?
Better than Colby Covington and Robbie Lawler numbers.
Is it enough? All right, because it's one thing for him to get kind of paid.
Mike, we know the answer. What are we arguing about?
It's another thing, the money that Henry Cejudo is probably asking for. He probably thinks he's GSP when it comes to the money.
That's the thing. Henry Cejudo's wanted a raise for 2 years. Henry Cejudo wants more money to fight. That's why he stopped fighting. He didn't think it was worth it for the money they were paying him. That's the debate. And the UFC doesn't pay anybody because, whatever. We're going to talk about that some more, I guess. Well, I mean, I guess we talk about it every week. UFC ain't paying, folks. This is what it is. But yeah, Marcus, he was just lying. Like, they do it all the time. Like, they will happily book this fight.
To be fair, I
know he didn't want it, but they would happily, like, the logic he used was bullshit.
Well, yeah, Dana's thing is like, oh, like, this doesn't happen, but it's like, well, you call the shots. You make the fight. So if you wanted it to happen, you absolutely could make it happen. And I think, I wouldn't hate the match if it happened. I could see why they wouldn't and why there's questions being raised about like a guy who's never fought in the weight division. And look, you can talk about GSP and you can talk about Randy Couture coming out of retirement and getting title shots, but like those are legends. And Henry did a lot in his championship reign. He had a good run there, but it wasn't super long. Like he won some great fights, but it was not a legacy building thing. So, at the end of the day, like I think that would be interesting. And I think you could whether he's made good pay-per-view numbers or not, I think you could really sell a pay-per-view where it's like this guy, whether you like him or hate him, and he has a personality where you're probably on one of those sides. He's going to be the first guy to be a triple champion in a weight division. No one else has done that. So you could sell a pay-per-view on that alone. It's
like, I don't know. I lost my train of thought there, but like, I don't understand. We're just it seems like you've been on TV for 25 years, man. We know the stuff you've said. We're all going to, you can't pick and choose when you decide these belts mean something. You know what I mean? You can't give title shots to people coming off of losses, okay? Because I swear to God, Conor McGregor's about to leapfrog leapfrog Justin Gaethje, okay? I swear to God, I think that's about to happen here, okay? And he's coming off of 2 losses, right? Or did the last one not technically? What did he lose by? Did he lose the second one? The third one?
No, it's a loss.
Did it count as a loss?
Yeah.
Man hasn't won a fight in this weight class.
That's what has to count as a TKO.
When was the last time he won a fight in this weight class?
At 155?
Yeah, when he won the belt. Honest question. And I look, if we're going to decide these things matter or we don't. And you can't all of a sudden decide there's any sort of deference I got to hold to these championships where you book the interim heavyweight title fight because your champion had the audacity to not want to fight, 2 months after he won the fucking belt.
Now, do
they use their props? These belts are props.
Do we think he really cares about the championship, Dana White? Or it's really just about the money.
No,
right?
We're not going to have this conversation. We have this, they're not paying the fighters, and he wants to not say that because that's all anybody talks about at this point. That has become a narrative. Everybody knows these guys aren't getting paid, okay? What's his name has got fucking 30 million people on YouTube following him, and I don't know how many on Instagram, the kid. People know the UFC fighters don't get paid. I don't know. I don't know why the man lies all the time. What's the point? Everything that comes out of his mouth is bullshit. So... But yeah, Zombie and Volkanovski. The other fight that got moved over there was the other title fight for that card was Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan got moved 1 month back. And as Aljo tells it, it's because Peter Yan isn't vaccinated and can't get into the wherever this fight's happening in time. I don't know. Sure. Did we get confirmation on that? Anybody see that? Like, I think we're just gonna take Aljo's word for it, I guess.
Is Peter Yan like a resident here of the United States? Like, does
I think he lives in Russia, doesn't he?
Yeah, if you come here, like if you come to the United States, don't you have to be vaccinated?
I don't know. This is Russia. They can't put paperwork together saying he's vaccinated anyway. These people, this is Russia.
He didn't get that Sputnik.
I'm
vaccine?
saying Russia just we're just pumping out fake drug tests for years to Olympic athletes. We can't get a piece of paper for Peter. The end of the story is the main event of the March pay-per-view is now Colby Covington and Jorge Mosvodel. Main event. 5 rounds. No title. 2 men who've lost 2 times to the champion. And they got some sort of blood feud, but we've reached a point with Jorge Mosvodel that we have no reason to want him to beat up Colby Covington because he's the same MAGA prick that Colby possibly is. And you know what? Colby doesn't believe the stuff coming out of his mouth. I haven't decided if that's better or worse, Mark. I'll be honest with you. I will really be honest with you at this point.
I mean, I think stylistically, it's just like, I don't really think Mosvodel's going to have much for Covington because he's so aggressive. There's so many areas he's just better than Jorge is. It's going to be interesting to see the build up and the trash talk because that's kind of where Jorge probably does his best work. He has not displayed a great showing in the octagon in a while. And part of it is because he's talked himself up such a big game. He's been getting really tough fights that he hasn't been able to clear, So it's a big matchup for him. If he can get a win over Covington, I think it's going to be course for him.
I'm disparaging the fight. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good fight necessarily. I think it could be good. I mean, Colby, a lot of his fights aren't like, he doesn't get a lot of finishes, but I think the pace he puts on guys can lead to some exciting stuff happening. And Jorge's the finisher, but these things cost $75 now. And there's no title fights.
On top.
It's gonna be a really hard ask to spend $75 for 2 fights that there's no title fight, and also for 2 guys I generally just don't like at this point as human beings.
You're gonna book a heel fight? You're gonna book 2 heels in the main event? I'm just saying. You gotta get. Mark and I were talking about this. I think off air. Like, you gotta get a serious co-main event on this, right, Mark? Like, you gotta get I don't know what that even is if it's not a title fight.
It's only like a month and a half away.
It's got to be 5 rounds, first of all. I don't know what it's going to even be. You're going to get, if you can get Nate and Dustin, you think Nate's going to agree to co-main event for him, too. Nate's a bigger pay-per-view star than both of them. You're not going to get Nate. I don't know. I don't even know what it would be.
If Nate gets on this card, why are we assuming he'd be the co-main?
That's what I'm saying. Nate's not going to agree to be the co-main event. Nate agreed to be a non-main event when there was a title fight in front of him. You can't. Also, it doesn't make any business sense for Nate to be co-main event to these 2 guys. Nate's the most well-known person out of the 3 of them. Nate is possibly the biggest pay-per-view star they have outside of Conor McGregor at this point, in terms of name, notoriety.
Yeah.
I don't know. You want to get Nick? Is Nick in a fight? I'm trying to think what fights they could put together that are 5 rounds that people give a shit about, that are even on the docket. You can let Francis try to punch Dana. Maybe
an interim belt of some sort.
It sounds right, doesn't it? We have an interim belt coming.
Well, that would also be weird if there was an interim belt that wasn't the main event.
Well, I mean, the heavyweight champion, if he wins this weekend, says he's not fighting again under his current deal.
Maybe he vacates, and then you can do a heavyweight fight, Stipe and the loser or something.
How many
maybe Francis, if he wins, he does WWE style, and as he's leaving the octagon, he just throws the championship into the trash.
Yeah, someone has a trash can we were buying. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I heard there's jewels in that belt. He should pluck those things out first.
That'd make it even more baller.
I don't believe anything the UFC said about how real that belt was. I'll be honest. I think the UFC was sick of giving multiple. The Dana White's still pissed. He had to get 12 belts. He had to get 12 belts to Mighty Mouse.
That shit ain't nothing but stained glass, bro. That shit ain't no rubies.
They bought that shit at the, in the mall between the, the middle, the booths there, the little kiosks. Yeah, I don't know, Mike. They gotta do something. I mean, unless I've misjudged how popular Colby Covington and Jorge Mosvodel are. Greatly.
I don't know. I don't think the MAGA crowd wants to spend $75 for a UFC fight.
I mean, honestly,
mainly because their trailers don't get cable, and they probably don't have $75.
they should ask the president to do They should ask the former president to do commentary. Just lean into this thing, man. That might save it. They might actually sell something that way. Not to us, but somebody. Yeah, we'll see what they do with that. Other news we got this week. Amanda Nunes is leaving American Top Team.
I wonder why.
She wants to make her American Top Team. I don't know. It sounds the word is she wants to make like her own gym, and maybe like make it more of a boxing style thing where like the focus is just on her. Because Top Team, Marcus, is maybe the biggest gym, like just in terms of number of fighters, right? Like, and I know they have a very large facility over in Florida. They have actually moved to an even bigger one, but maybe she, thinks she needs some more one-on-one attention, I guess.
I mean, I don't think that's unrealistic. Like you said, all top boxers don't have like a gym where there's a bunch of, prospects in there and they just pound it out every day. It's like, no. I'm the main attraction here. Everything revolves around my preparation. So it's not like, we're going to do 15 minutes of sparring and the coach is going to walk around and give me a tip here and there as he catches what I'm doing. It's like, no, all eyes on me. I'm the focus. I'm the breadwinner. I'm paying everyone in this gym. Money's coming out of my pocket to pay you, so everyone's focused on me. I mean, I think that's what most championships probably should do. I think it's tough to be in a gym like American Top Team where it's like literally there's 20, 30, 40
Mike Brown only has so much time to come around. Mike Brown can only do so much. He's cornering half the card. And like you also don't be in a situation where like, you're Rashad Evans 3 weeks out from a title fight and Diego Sanchez rolls onto your fucking knee, and all of a sudden John Jones gets a title shot instead of you. I'm just saying, like, when you're the focus, what you mentioned, Mark, it does make sense. But if they all got paid enough money to do it,
and I mean, it's not saying that like American Top Team doesn't give these,
they're killing it these
elite.
days.
Well, no, just like giving their elite athletes, the people that in title contention that have big fights coming up, don't get private time. I'm sure they do, but I do kind of like when you look at like Whitman, it's like he has 3 fighters, and that is the focus. And it's like that's maybe as much as like a top trainer should be focusing. It should really all be about this person's preparation. And I mean, but look, it's a great business. I'm not hating on American Top Team. They've done a fantastic job of cultivating, a gym full of killers, and steel sharpens steel or whatever you want to say. But I think at some point, especially when you are someone like Amanda Nunes, who's become kind of a double champion, someone of that caliber, if you can afford to have your own training camps and, bring in your own training partners and everything's going to be focused around you, I think that's probably the way to go. I mean, that's what boxing been doing, so.
We haven't heard from her necessarily too. And like, you don't know, maybe she's trying to build a gym and like she wants her own team also because she knows, I got a few years left.
One question. Yeah, that's one thing you just touched on there is she has a few years left. Wasn't she considering retirement just like last fight?
Was she, or did we manifest that every time we've talked about it? She has mentioned it, hasn't she? I feel she's had a kid. I don't know how many. If Amanda Nunes fights more than 2 years, I'd be surprised.
So what I'm wondering is, I guess everyone has feels they should do what they need to do, but if she only has like a fight or 2 left, I don't know. I don't understand the wanting to break off from American Top Team that helped make you into a champion and basically just uproot your life for like maybe 1 or 2 training camps.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's just trying to set up that future income source of a gym or something. Or I don't know. Maybe she stops fighting and, Nina starts fighting more. And I don't know. We got to hear from the former champion, see what the GOAT wants to do. Maybe there's some logic to it. So
she's still a champion.
She is. I'm sorry. She is the Horde 45 champion. I forgot about that title. Much like everybody else has. Mm-hmm. All right. Francis Ngannou specifically says he is not fighting under his current UFC deal after this fight, where there is allegedly 1 more fight left. But there's no long title. It no longer goes on forever. Your contract that changed somewhere around the time the UFC got the shit suit out of him. So there is some sort of. It's funny how that works. There's some sort of time limit to this championship, to this contract too. And Mark and I were talking about this, I think last week, where we mentioned Francis. The UFC doesn't like Francis's management. We don't think it's a coincidence that Endeavor owns the UFC and their biggest competition is CAA. in terms of talent management, and Francis's management is from CAA. So, makes you wonder if there's some sort of statement being made here. I mean, I guess we can talk about what we expect. We can make our picks in a second here, but I can't think of somebody, Mike, that embodies more of what the UFC wants out of a heavyweight champion than this man.
I would disagree.
Short of Brock Lesnar. But like in terms of like what they have their own Mike Tyson, man. What do you mean?
No, I disagree with you 100% as this is what the UFC wants. Because you know what he isn't? Complacent. You know what he isn't? No, not complacent. Compliant. That's the word I was looking
compliant.
for.
Yeah.
He's not compliant at all. He wants more money. UFC ain't dealing with that shit. Get the fuck out of there. As you said in the podcast last week and in many other times before, what's more valuable to the UFC are those 3 letters than the letters that make up the person's last name.
That's true, but I mean, you got to have something. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe they're gonna see. They have not promoted this fight worth a shit. Okay, they have done nothing to promote this fight. It's just happening this weekend in the middle of the NFL playoffs. About is there a game straight up against this pay-per-view?
I don't think so.
You hope not, right?
I think the Saturday night game probably ends around 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock.
Yeah, because the Niner game is the 1/3 of the 1:30/4:30 game is the 49ers and Packers game on Saturday.
All right.
There's probably 2 games on Saturday, right?
Yeah, I think there's 2 games on Saturday and Sunday, so I'm assuming the night game is probably starting at 7 or 8 o'clock.
Is it me, or do they normally not have pay-per-views right in the middle of this? Like, they normally have their pay-per-view, like normally, after the Super Bowl or beginning of the month.
I was going to say, normally there's a end-of-the-year pay-per-view, and then the next pay-per-view will be the weekend of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Normally. There's normally not a pay-per-view in the middle of January.
I'm not saying they're setting him up for failure, but this seems like it's going to get drowned out by some of the coverage.
I would say yes. I would say they are setting him up for failure.
You are, okay.
Because one thing that we talked about before is that with the ESPN deal, they're basically just making bank, just putting out, with all due respect, just putting out slop on, whatever Saturday, right? So when it comes to the pay-per-views isn't as big a revenue generator for them as it was before. It's more just about quantity rather than quality. So I wouldn't put it past them that one bargaining tactic they're doing is not promoting this fight at all, have the numbers not be that great considering it's a Francis Ngannou fight, and then possibly try to get them at the cheap or just try to play hardball with them. Look, you're not a needle mover. You don't sell shit, all right? Get your ass back in line.
I swear to God, Mike, this was my
$600K fight.
I was going to bring that up during the Colby and Mosvodel thing because I'm like, UFC doesn't like dealing with any of these guys. They're going to make a main event of pay-per-view, and it's going to fucking die at $75. Let's just get into the card, I guess, because we're already there, right? I mean, let's just get into it and, make our picks. Yeah. But I guess before we do, Marcus, the only thing you want to say about Francis wanting to get paid?
No, I mean, I think you guys made both good points. I mean, I think it's just interesting to see, how excited Dana was leading up to the Stipe fights for Francis potentially to be their champion, to be this guy that, puts on really fun, exciting performances in the octagon. Hardly any of his fights go to the decision. They're almost always by knockout. And then, once he starts talking about getting paid more, once, he has management representing him, how quickly that 180 comes where it's like, oh yeah, we're not, it doesn't seem like the promotional machine is quite in full force as you think it would be for this type of fight. Like, this is not just like a heavyweight title fight. This is a really competitive one where these guys both have history with each other. The little backstage snub gif.
They're on the same fucking team. They have his former coach in the other corner. You could have sold the shit out of this.
Aren't they both
there's
Frenchmen
lots of storylines.
Yeah, they were part of the same fucking
storylines. There's lots of interest. I think stylistically, it's a really interesting fight, which we'll get into. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we're as tapped into the marketing of this as much as maybe we should be. But it doesn't seem like from where we're standing, there doesn't seem to be a lot of hubbub.
I watched so much fucking sports this weekend. All right, I watched so much football on ESPN.
So ESPN's not getting as much.
Mike, how much did you see? I saw it at the bottom of the
Football?
screen a few times.
Like
Yeah.
all of it.
How many ads for this thing do you see?
Oh, not one.
I saw him on SportsCenter, like at the bottom of the screen. Pretty much. This is the heavyweight title. This is literally what they dreamed of, is having a man like this. They haven't had a champion they like this much since fucking Brock Lesnar. Okay.
I mean, they gave Francis such a big push. I remember before his first title fight. I mean, it was amazing because that's what really makes it stark, just how little they promoted this fight. Because we've seen them promote this shit out of Francis before in the past.
They pretty much said he was the destroyer of worlds in his last fight. I mean, Marcus, you and I were talking about, you were talking on the show, where like his last fight, Stipe was furious after the first fight, right?
Yeah, he didn't want Dana to put the belt around him because he was hyping up Francis and not giving him any credit. So yeah, the 180 turn is apparent, and it's kind of shameful.
I mean, this guy's on video for all these years, and people still defend him. It's amazing. Props to Dana, man. You convincingly sell people on this bullshit over year after year. Eventually, they'll catch up, but not yet. All right, we only have 4 fights on the main card, from what I can tell, because Alexei Oleinik. It was Alexei Oleinik, I think, versus Greg Hardy was on the books for this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alexei Oleinik withdrew due to undisclosed reasons, which I'm choosing to mean that means COVID from now on. That's what I've decided it means for me personally. Not saying that's what he has, but if you don't give me a reason and it's undisclosed, I'm going with COVID. And then they said, well, we're going to have Sergey Spivak fight Greg Hardy instead. And then Greg Hardy broke his finger, and then there was just no fight. I was going to see if there's a 5th fight, but for now, we're just going to pick the 4 fights on the main card.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just lead off with the heavyweight championship of the world. Francis Ngannou taking on Ciryl Gane. I'm finally saying the man's name right. Last time we saw Francis, he beat the greatest heavyweight the UFC's ever seen in 2 rounds, I want to say. Maybe 3.
In 2.
2. Really showed a lot of development in his game there. Stuff to takedown. Was doing some offensive stuff actually on the ground. Ciryl Gane, last time we saw him, he was beating Derek Lewis's ass in front of all of Derek Lewis's friends and family in Houston.
Not a good look.
It was not a good look for Derek. He talks about it. I mean, Derek would appreciate the honesty on my part. Undefeated, 10-0. 7-0 in the UFC, wins over 3 people no one's ever heard of: Junior Dos Santos, Biggie Boy, and Volkov. And then Derek Lewis. He's got 4 knockouts, 3 submissions, 3 decisions. He'll get you from everywhere. Ngannou, before his win over Stipe, brutalized 4 men in a combined minute and 2 minutes. Biggie Boy, Junior Dos Santos, Kane, and Curtis Blades. Betting line for this one, gentlemen. Let me get the most recent one. Do you guys have it in front of you, though?
Minus 150 favorite for Ciryl Gane.
Oh, it's moved a little bit. Which one are you looking at? DraftKings?
Yeah.
DraftKings, just more money is coming on Gane. Gane is now a minus 155 to Francis Ngannou's plus 135. On FanDuel, which I'm bringing up because of Mike, minus 144 and plus 118. I'm going to pick Francis. I recognize how good Ciryl is technically, and he's looked really good against people like the Biggie Boy and Derek Lewis and stuff like that. Some of this is me kind of giving the result I want, because I think the play out of Francis being the heavyweight champion is, I said it the other day, and I said it'd be good for the fighters, and Mark's like, what do you mean? It's going to be good for Francis if he still wins. And I'm like, that's true. There's no end game where the fighters all get paid more. I want Francis to get paid. I want to see where this all plays out. But I also think he's going to hit him. I think he's going to hit him, and I think he's going to hit him hard. And I don't think Ciryl's going to... I think Francis is faster than all these other guys that Ciryl's beaten. And I think it's going to be a hard time for him to avoid getting hit by him. I recognize the later the fight goes, it might benefit Ciryl. But I think the first 2 or 3 rounds, I think Ngannou can put him away. So that's my pick. Marcus, your pick.
Yeah, I'm going with the odds maker on this one. I'm picking Gane or whatever. Like you, I kind of hope Francis wins. I think there's a lot of things orbiting him right now that's really interesting. I think the potential boxing matchup with him and Tyson Fury, while it would be, you know, a clusterfuck on his part, I don't even know if that fight would be able to get licensed. Honestly, it may be another exhibition or something, but I think that's some fun hijinks.
Floyd and Connor got booked. Just
that
saying.
was an exhibition. That was like
that was real. That was win
an
number
extra
50.
boxing fight.
Yeah,
That was
that's
win number
kinda crazy.
50.
So I mean, maybe because I think like that kind of cross promotional stuff is really fun. And Francis is down, Fury's down, so that's kind of interesting. And I don't know if that materializes if he doesn't win this fight, right? If he's not the UFC champion, whether it's former because he's not with the organization anymore, if he's coming off a loss, I just don't know if they booked that because I don't know if it has the heat that they would want. Even though I think that would still be fun. I do think Cyril is just like, he's a very polished technical guy. And I think where Francis does his best work, where he's able to get these big knockouts, is exploiting the weaknesses and mistakes off of his fighters that he fights against. And I just don't know if Gane's going to make those mistakes. I think he's going to be very tactical, meticulous through the first couple of rounds for sure. And then maybe if he's getting to the point like he did with Derek Lewis, where he's up on points, he's damaging him consistently, and he can put the fight away, maybe he will, but I wouldn't put it past him just to try to outwork and get rounds and try to get Francis tired. So yeah, my heart's definitely with Francis. I hope he gets the big knockout like you're expecting, like something. I mean, if he's able to pull it off in the first round, in the first minute, that could be.
Oh, Mark, what
great.
if he knocks him out and just walks over to where Dana White is sitting and just stares at him? If that's how Ngannou wins, that'd be fucking some legendary shit. Okay, legendary.
And very feasible. I mean, this is kind of what he does. That's in his wheelhouse. I think Gane's going to be a tough guy to do that against. So I do think tactically it's going to be a very interesting fight for Francis to figure out those nuances to land that big shot. And if he can't, it's going to be interesting to see if he can rely on other avenues. I think what's kind of interesting with Gane early on in his UFC career, he was winning by submission. So it's like, even if Francis has been practicing wrestling and getting on top and controlling that way, like, is he going to be able to do that with a guy that's been able to pull off heel hooks and arm triangles? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting facets here. It's why it's kind of perplexing why there's not more hype around it. The other side of that,
the lack of promotion.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other side of that is that, like, if Gane does win, we could have a stark opposite of what Francis is, like, where he's not a very exciting guy. He's winning a lot of 5-round decisions. But I don't want to paint that picture, because I was really impressed with the Derek Lewis fight, where he clearly could have done that. He could have just paced himself. He was winning every round. Derek Lewis was, not able to really assert himself, and he went for the finish. And I was really impressed with that, because he could have just played a smart tactical fight and just worn him down and got the decision. But he went for the KO and the win, and I give him a lot of credit for that. So I don't know. This fight is very intriguing, let alone how much hype is getting around it.
The poor marketing of it. UFC think Francis is about to win? Because if they didn't think he was going to win, don't you want this other guy to get some credit at the end of this? You want anybody else to watch this other guy?
But it doesn't matter.
They don't care.
It doesn't matter if they think that Francis is gonna.
I'm just going to put this out. I was on the co-main event podcast. They referred to this era as the just some fights era of UFC. We're just putting on some fights, man. On Saturday, turn on your TV. There's going to be some fights on TV. Are they good? Are they bad? They're on TV. And you know what? Every now and then we'll put a pay-per-view together that you're going to care about. Last weekend, just some fights. This card, honestly, about half of it is just some fights. Minimum, if not more. They don't care, huh? They're just content producers now, Mike. That's it. We're just, just got to put out, another thing next week for ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
Who do you got, buddy?
And if that's the case, doesn't really matter unless you are a megastar. Doesn't really matter who's the champion. So in this first of irrelevant championships, I'm gonna go with the actual champ, remaining irrelevant and champion.
So Francis.
Yeah.
All right, 2 for Francis, Mark, and the betting line for Cyril Gane. Co-main event. The assassin baby, Brandon Moreno, taking on Davis and Figuerito. Why are we doing this again? No one knows. I think we all recognize that last fight was pretty fucking decisive. Betting odds for this one. We got Brandon as a minus 180. Brandon Moreno minus 180 to Figuerito's plus 155. That's on DraftKings, on FanDuel. slightly higher favorite for Brandon Moreno, minus 188. Moreno's these guys, their recent history is each other. The first fight, one of the best fights anybody's ever seen. Best fight of the year for a lot of people. Best flyweight fight, championship fight ever. Figuerito lost a point and probably cost him the fight. But it was a just incredible fight. Second fight, there was no real point where Brandon was in danger. And he put Figuerito away in the third round. I honestly thought it was sooner. Put him away with a rear naked choke. Gave a real heartwarming speech afterwards. We're going to do it again, even though I think everybody recognized that Pantoja is actually probably the most logical next contender, considering he also has beaten the champion and nearly beaten the former champion. Figueiredo saying some stuff where Brandon is a traitor to Henry Cejudo or I don't know. Henry Cejudo might be there. I don't know why this matters. I'm picking
how is he a traitor?
I don't know. The guy retired. Who's not supposed to fight for the belt? I got Brandon Moreno adding to his Lego collection this weekend, folks.
Is it because they're both Mexican? Is that why?
Is that why? Is that okay? Fine. I got Moreno. He's gonna buy a fucking Lego Death Star with this money after he wins this fight. I have a hard time. I think Figueiredo kind of fights the way Figueiredo does, and while Brandon can be hit, I think he made the proper adjustments, and it's on Figueiredo to make adjustments this time. And I've never seen him fight a different way, Marcus. I'll be honest. He just fights the way he fights, and it's worked very well for him. But I got Moreno getting it done here. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm with you for a lot of the same reasons. That second fight really showed a lot of adjustments from Moreno's part and not a lot from Figueiredo's part. So I'm sure there's going to be some minor adjustments, but I have to imagine, his whole success has been come off of just being extremely aggressive and going after it. And Moreno was able to capitalize off that in the second fight. And I think he's going to be able to do so again. And unlike my last pick, I like Moreno. I think he's a great champion. I think honestly, both these guys are good champions for different reasons. I think Moreno, charisma wise is great. I think Figueiredo was so action packed. You and
me were early on the Figueiredo hype train. I remember you and me were watching this guy early on.
He revitalized this weight division a bit, and I think you have to give some credit to Henry, because when Henry was champion too, he was getting finishes. I think this was a division that had lost a lot of steam because there wasn't a lot of star power. Mighty Mouse had dominated his division.
He was laughing at this point. Yeah.
But in a lot of performances that just were uninspiring. It was just like, oh, he's clearly better than this guy. And I learned that in the first 2 minutes of the fight. And now I have to watch 23 more minutes of him just like playing around with the opponent and not finishing him. So it was fun to see to see Henry get in there and finish guys, to see Henry beat Mighty Mouse and then go on a run where he was just demolishing people.
He smashed TJ, he smashed Dominic, and then, Figueiredo smashed Benavidez twice,
And then Figueiredo capitalized on that as well. He was a super action-packed fighter. He was showing that this division is not only like just a high skill level and high speed, like it could be really exciting. There can be damage done here. There could be finishes to these fights, which I think he revitalized it. And then I think Moreno is just almost like another level of that. Not only just like he's an action fighter, it's really exciting to see him fight, but he has a personality that you want to root for. So I think he encompasses, and then, I think you look at the Mexican angle too.
They wanted a Mexican champion all these years, right? They got one.
And not only is he just, but he's on like the Spanish broadcast. He's become kind of integral into the UFC machine, into that market. So I think it's important for them that he wins to some degree. And I just think he's a great fighter, and he's just a fun personality. So I'm definitely pulling for him in this one, but I think it's going to be a really great fight. I think both fights were really good. I think these guys matching up, it's hard not to have a good fight because they are so aggressive and they really go after the finish. So I'm looking forward to it, but I think Moreno's going to win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. I like both the top two fights, Mark, for such a generally a thin card overall compared to other pay-per-views. Really good, these two title fights. I don't necessarily agree that we needed to do this third fight, but it'll be fun. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going with Moreno as well, so I think we're going to be sweeping this one. It's not a good trajectory for Figueiredo. First fight was very close. Second fight, Moreno seemed to figure things out. And I think it'll be very hard for Figueiredo to figure out what went wrong in the first two fights, considering that he hasn't really had much time to, really improve on what he needs to improve on, or really fix anything that, went wrong in the first two fights, considering that this is literally the next fight. They've literally just fought each other, 3 times in a row with no break. I've got Moreno on this one.
All right, clean sweep. Next fight, Michelle Pereira.
I automatically just put Michael.
Michelle Pereira taking on Andre Fiallo, who looks very familiar, but I guess has not been in the UFC.
Yeah, that'd be tough because this is his UFC debut. He's been in Bellator. Do you remember watching Bellator
Maybe?
207?
I don't know. He looks very familiar to me. We might have been at one of the shows he was in too, to be honest. Did we go to Phil Davis versus King Mo? I feel we did. Does that sound right? He might have been at that one.
Not sure, to be honest.
Anyway, short notice fight for him, taking on Michelle Pereira, who I've been very guilty of making fun of all the cartwheels and shit he does, but it's been a long time since he's done some dumb shit. So, the betting line for this one, he's a big fucking favorite. He's minus 280.
Is this one of the classic? Does this man have a Wikipedia page? No,
he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. He's on ShareDog. Right. He's 14-3, with a lot of knockouts. Look, Michelle Pereira has really turned it around. It looks like 3 straight wins. I'm gonna keep riding that train. I think he's gonna get the win here, and it's little talked about, but this motherfucker is huge for this weight class. Like, he is massive. He is like 6'2". All right, he is like built like a brick shit house. So I got Pereira. Mike, you got him too?
Yeah, I've got him as well. He's not nearly as big of an idiot as he was when he first came in the UFC.
Marcus, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, hard to go against him. I think too, his last 3 fights, even his 3 fights ago, they've all gone to the 3rd round, and he's won. And I think that's credit to better strategy, better stamina utilization, making sure that he has the energy to go to the distance and not gas himself out, which I think was one of his biggest criticisms. And then you look at the other guys, like UFC debut, it's a big stage. On a pay-per-view with the heavyweight title, there's going to be a lot more eyes on him, more interviews than he's probably used to, even though they're not marketing this fight as much. So I think all those factors come in. It makes Pierre a little easier of a pick than maybe otherwise.
Other fight we're picking, Said Nurmagomedov taking on Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann coming off of 2 straight losses. Said bounced back from his lone UFC loss to Raoni Barcelos to beat a guy with no Wikipedia page. Said's a minus 200 favorite to plus 170 for Cody Stamann. And I think this is the fight where Cody Stamann gets his walking papers, folks. He got a lot of fights, and a lot of them go to decision. They're not that exciting. I think he'll put him against a Dagestani, former bantamweight champion in the that organization owned by the warlord over there. ABKC4 something. I got Said getting it done here. Marcus, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you too. Not a lot of analysis here. But yeah, coming off 2 losses, we'll see what happens. But yeah, not going with Cody on this one.
Mike?
Sweeping it.
Let me check real briefly to see if they've decided what is the 5th main card fight. Because there isn't one at the moment. Oh, wow. There's actually a picture of Ngannou on the front page of UFC.com. Shocking. Okay, we got... All right, they're still listing Greg Hardy versus Sergey Spivak on the UFC website, so clearly they're on top of it, guys. If that fight...
They're really, just mailing it in this week, huh?
Yeah, if that fight is still happening, I think we all got Sergey Spivak. It's probably just saying at this point. All right, well, I don't know what else there is to say. I guess the other news is we can talk about Bellator for a moment, where they booked their welterweight champion in a title fight against Michael Venom Page, and none of us know the name of the welterweight champion, but it doesn't matter because he's fighting MVP in London, so we clearly know the Bellator doesn't care about him either. So that's what's happening.
Is London even allowed to be outside right now?
These are all good questions. Mike. I don't know. Do not know. Henry Cejudo talking shit about Peter Yan. Okay. Sounds like
that's a man just trying to stay relevant. That's what that
sounds
is right
like
there.
Gilbert Burns is the one who wants to fight Chimaev, which that sounds awesome on every level. And he says, "Let's go 5 rounds, main event in Brazil."
Let's go 5 rounds co-main with Colby Jorge.
Yeah, honestly, put that shit over there. At least give me something. May is when they're gonna do it, Mike. MVP and Amosav is his name. Yeah, they lost a lot of fights this card, by the way. Andrei Arlovsky is booked for a title fight. Booked for a fight. UFC 271. Nice of him to still be active. They're booking fights with a lot of not popular people. It sounds like. I think Kevin Holland is going down to welterweight.
Okay.
That's interesting.
That.
That's interesting. It's on the same card as that Covington and Mosvodel fight. And Matt Brown is going to main event a UFC card. It sounds like in Columbus, Ohio. So,
how many fights has Matt Brown lost in a row?
I think he's won a few actually.
Ooh,
he bounces back and forth, but I'm kind of beside myself. I mean, the guy is a legend for different reasons than a lot of the other legends in the UFC, but I didn't think I'd ever see a day where, and I hate saying this because I'm like throwing mad shit on the guy, but like he's a main event.
he
I take
did
it
win
back.
his
It's not
last
the main
fight
event.
against Diego.
I take it back.
Leon.
It's not the main event.
Okay. I mean, look, I don't want to hate on the guy, but
No, the
he's
main
just
event.
not-
The main event is Rakic versus Alexander Rakic versus Jan Blachowicz. That's a good fight. That's like a really good fight.
Yeah, that's more that math works in my head a little bit more. Like, love Matt Brown in his home in his hometown. That's great, but like a main event would be like I'm a little
another
lost.
example of just another fight though.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, I think the most telling thing we learned about the UFC's operations was that little pie chart that Bobby sent us, where it's like, here's the revenue streams. And when you see like, oh, the biggest piece of the pie is that ESPN contract. So yeah, it is just fulfilling
just some fights, baby. Just some fights.
And that's kind of sad, right? Because if it was pay-per-view, then they have a financial incentive to give us something to make worthy of the more money we're paying.
It wouldn't be sad if they told me like a certain percentage that was definitely going to the motherfuckers on these just some fight cards. At least I could look at the card last weekend and say, you know what? At least Giga and Calvin each cleared like $200,000 on this thing. You know what I mean?
Do you guys think if like we doctored some video and made a fake Wikipedia page, we can get one of us into the UFC?
Like as a fighter?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe at best, Mike, we'd get in some Dana White contenders and then get demolished by some legitimate person.
That was of all the things. Like, Mike didn't even say like maybe we could lie our way out to like the press credentials. Mike's like, no, can we just get on a card?
Do some face swapping on. Like,
I'm just saying, maybe not like a pay-per-view, but you know.
Let me say this also: when I watched Dana White talk about how he took all these random stupid drugs that Joe Rogan told him to take when he had COVID, and while the man's boosted and vaccinated, and that's why he was okay. There was a part of me that said, like, if I was one of those people who was going to decide if I wanted to pay for this pay-per-view or not, or stream it illegally, an interview like this would make me think, I'm cool not paying this motherfucker a dime. Just saying. All right, let's do stuff we like. Because I checked and the only news I saw was that Miesha Tate offended other fighters by saying that she's not desperate enough for an OnlyFans. So, stuff we like. Let's talk about Peacemaker. Just so we're all on the same page here. Mark, you watched the first episode.
Yeah, I've only seen the first so far.
Mike, you've seen...
I have seen, I think, the first 2 episodes, and I think 20 or 30 minutes into the 3rd episode.
Okay, so I've watched all 3. So we're just going to talk generally about the premise and our impressions of the show. I hope this is a really big deal, this show, for John Cena, because I'm really enjoying it. I liked it more as I watched more episodes. It's really quite funny, and John Cena has no problem just like fucking going for it, and cursing and being in sex scenes. And I don't think you need to have seen the movie either, the Suicide Squad movie, honestly, to be able to understand this show. But if you didn't, John Cena's character doesn't die in the second Suicide Squad movie. And Peacemaker, I guess we'd say, Marcus, is a kind of a hero, but really he does so much destruction and so much killing that he's like a deranged Captain America, maybe.
He kind of falls into like the anti-hero kind of thing where like he sees himself as a hero, but his actions don't necessarily align with what comic books usually dictate as like a superhero.
He loves
type.
freedom so much, he doesn't care how many men, women, and children he has to kill to get it. Or something like that, right? Or something. It's peace, not freedom. I think it's just the same cast as who was in the movie, except they added, I forgot the actress's name, but she played Tasty on from
Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, I want to say her name is Danielle something.
Danielle Brooks.
There it is, Danielle Brooks. She's in there. They got appearances from Amanda Waller in there, and the same team from before. And they got Robert Patrick, aka was he the T-1000 in T2?
T-1000.
T-1000.
He was also in the X-Files as well for like a season.
But he's playing Peacemaker's dad, and he's got a pet eagle. I like the show, man. I think it's really good. They put first 3 episodes up. I guess it's going to be every week on Thursdays. It's going to have an episode, I think. I don't know how many episodes they're going. I'm just going to assume 10. That's just how these go, generally. But that's cool, man. I like that, Marvel's pumping out these shows left and right. DC does something every now and then that's actually good. So, Marcus, what'd you think?
Yeah, like I said, I've only seen the first episode, but I really liked it. It was a little surprising before the second Suicide Squad movie came out. They had already announced they were doing this series with John Cena, and it was kind of like, okay, he must have done a good job in that film for them to garner a spin-off series before the film was even released. And I think what's just as impressive about Cena being in it and a lot of the actors from the movie is that like James Gunn is also attached. I think he's the director or executive producer, and it shows. Like, it's a high budget show. It's a high effort show, and I think that's something that and again, like, I haven't seen a lot of the DC live action shows. I heard Doom Patrol is really good, but I haven't seen it, so I can't personally vouch for it.
I can. Good show.
But there's also a lot of DC shows that just aren't of that caliber and aren't trying to be what Peacemaker is when you look at like all the CW shows, right? Like The Flash and Days of Future Past or whatever that little group thing was. Like, those are
Legends of Tomorrow, like in Green Arrow. Like, those were very different types of shows, and this is very R-rated adult humor. And I think for the most part, like, a lot of it lands, at least for me, a lot of the jokes I thought were funny. I thought John has a lot of charisma that works well. I think they have a lot of comedic actors that play off of him very well. And special effects wise, it's big budget. There's a lot of money going into this show. And I think sometimes for shows to be successful, you need to have that. You can't really, I think when you're working with a limited budget or a limited scope, it kind of makes things just not feel as authentic, or that the show can really go anywhere it needs to go. But yeah, so far with just watching one episode, I really do enjoy it quite a lot. But I'm also kind of worried too. Like, yeah, if it isn't as successful as DC and the people producing it think it could be, this could be a failed project, and I don't want that to happen because I think it's quality. But yeah, so far I've really enjoyed it. I still have 2 more episodes to go, and we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But just on 1 episode alone, I've thoroughly enjoyed the show, and I'm excited to see more. So very blue show, very they take advantage of being on HBO, and I just like how John Cena's just fucking all in. I don't know, he seems like a guy who works hard. Oddly, I don't know, him and the Rock are very similar.
He's very committed to his roles, whether it's his role in the WWE or his roles in acting. I mean, his first real star turn as an actor was the bit part he had in that Amy Schumer movie, Trainwreck, I think it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like he was great in that movie, as you said, being kind of blue, and I think that's what's propelled him in a lot of his acting.
You know who he was playing in that movie?
Wasn't he playing John Cena?
No, I mean, he's basically playing Dolph Ziggler. It was because she used to date Dolph Ziggler. Real, not
Amy
kidding.
Schumer used to date Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, that's a whole different side note. Yeah. When
Really?
she talks, so she had these like stand-up bits about dating a dude who was just too in shape and stuff, and dating a wrestler. That was him. That's Dolph.
Not that Amy Schumer is an ugly lady, but Dolph Ziggler is a beautiful human being.
Yeah, and Dolph Ziggler used to date what's her name, Nikki Bella, before John Cena did.
Yeah, you see, that makes
It's
more
all
sense.
connected.
Yeah,
It's all connected, buddy. It's all connected. Okay. But yeah. That's really it. And then I played the game with Mark. I forgot the name of it. Deep Rock Galactic.
You got it.
There we go. That was really fun. But yeah, that's all I really got this week. Mike, what do you got?
Man, actually, you took what was going to be my main one because I started watching Peacemaker. Well, I was eventually going to watch Peacemaker, but you really wanted someone to talk to at some point about it this
You don't
weekend.
feel when I said that I was like, Bobby might talk about this on the show. He pretty much cajoled me into watching this fucking thing.
You know, I probably should have thought that, but I didn't. No, you know, I think the thing I'm gonna like this week is the Pfizer vaccine because I started getting sick.
You're alive and talking to us?
Yeah, I started getting sick Friday before last, and normally my sicknesses, I've never had the flu before. So normally my sicknesses, I get a cold for like a day, I feel like shit for like a day, and then I'm basically just all healed up. And I felt like absolute shit for about 5 or 6 days for the most part. Bobby's giving me a look. Well, what's wrong with you?
Mike missed 2 days of school because the nachos he ate at Chili's were iffy.
That's
Nachos that the rest of us ate.
That's tummy issues. All right?
2 days.
I'm talking
The next 2 days you didn't come to school.
I'm talking an actual sickness, you know, like.
Okay, I'm just saying. When all of a sudden, like, I got sick for a day, then I put the helmet and pads on. I'm ready to fucking go.
All right,
like
that is external pressures. All right, that was me shitting my guts out for 2 days. Okay, because of whatever the fuck, well, whatever like shit they put into that Chili's burger. Okay. I've gone to Chili's after that. I love Chili's. This is
I was gonna say we still want that Chili's sponsorship.
Don't go to Chili's. All right.
I
got that bacon cheeseburger afterwards, and it was amazing as it always was.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, I don't think I'd ever felt so shitty for such a long period of time. And one thing I thought about when I started to feel better, last Wednesday, was this is how I felt having been vaccinated and boosted. And probably very stupidly, I started thinking, oh, this is why so many people died, in the first year of this pandemic. I mean, if that's how I felt, having had all of the protections afforded to me and being a fairly healthy guy, I mean, I can see why it affected so many people and, caused so many deaths before the vaccine. So thank you, Pfizer. I hope the next time that I rely on you for medication is in about 30 or 40 years. So cheers to you.
I mean, buddy, you're on the biannual subscription, man. We're getting jabbed in May. I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you just completely miss the dick pill joke I made? Come on, man.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Sorry.
40 years. Come on. Well, my dick doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, happy you're back. By the way, as much fun as I have making fun of you, it'd be an unfortunate show if I couldn't make fun of you. Marcus, what you got this week?
Yeah, it'd be really tough jabbing the dead guys. The belt, Mike, I think the belt would be coming up less often if it was like I really bought this to spite Mike.
I was gonna start this fucking podcast. Ding dong, Gooms is dead. Champ is here. That would have been it.
No, we're all glad that Mike's fine. None of us were super, super concerned about your overall well-being. I didn't really hear much from Bob about, you not doing well. So I just assumed you were gonna brush it off like nothing. So I didn't know. Yeah, I had you down for 5-6 days. That's pretty serious. So, hats off to you. And yes, the vaccine and booster, saving as many lives as it has is fucking awesome, especially with how many people have been getting it at least recently. That's not the stuff I like this week, though. I did want to mention still playing Deep Rock Galactic, like Bob said. Like 3 weeks in since it came out on PlayStation Plus.
I got a Deep Rock Galactic question. When you're playing by yourself, are you not playing by yourself? Do you not play by yourself? Okay,
I have not yet.
Okay,
I know what it's like.
Because I'm curious if it's just like, because not that it's like hard, but it's not that easy. Like, I mean, you get bombarded with those bad
Could you
guys.
explain to us what Deep Rock was? It Deep Rock Galaxy?
Oh, Mike, you got to play with us, buddy. We got to get Mike in a game,
You
Mark.
got Plus, so you should jump on. It's. I mean, we did talk about it a little bit last week, but it's a 4-player. I've kind of been saying it's like a cross between Minecraft and Left 4 Dead, or even like Helldivers, which came out on PlayStation 4 years ago, which is one of my favorite games. It's objective-based co-op where basically you're a bunch of dwarves that get drilled in underground, and whatever your mission is, whether it's mining a certain material or collecting alien eggs or escorting a drill or siphoning some kind of liquid gas. You have 4 players. There's 4 different classes that have different weapons and abilities. And mostly you're kind of exploring this cave to find minerals and complete your objective. And while that's happening, there's a alien bug life form on the planet that's trying to kill you. So you're trying to fight that and, complete your objectives. As a game as a service type that this is, so far I've been extremely pleased with it. I think that there's constantly a carrot dangling in front of you, whatever you're doing, and once you achieve whatever goal you're trying to, there's a next thing to unlock, and then it just kind of goes on and on from there, and you're constantly unlocking cosmetic things. They're not really skimping out on you, so it's like, oh, you feel like if you want to look unique or different or cool, you have to put money into the game. You really don't. You put some time in, you'll start unlocking different beards and mustaches and hats and what have you to, customize your character. So it really has all those things in place that.
Mike, in one hand you got a pickaxe, and then in the other hand you got guns, and then you're smacking rocks, and then there's aliens you're shooting.
Now, just also, not to sidetrack you, Mark, but when you said dwarves, you mean like dwarves like from Lord of the Rings, not like dwarves like little people, right?
No, like Gimli.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Like the fantasy dwarves. And I mean, and like these games, it all, I think a lot of the fun just comes down to, point to point, stories that unfold themselves. And one that happened when we were playing with Bob. Bob was playing the Scout class, which is the class that I started playing as, which is I think all the classes are really unique and fun. But the Scout class is really interesting because a lot of these caves have a lot of verticality to them where you're trying to reach areas that are high up and you have to kind of figure out, okay, well, how am I going to get up there? And the Scout has a grappling hook that he can just shoot into the side of a mountain and he just gets pulled right up. So at the end of our mission, kind of like Left 4 Dead or Back 4 Blood, the goal is for everyone to get to the escape pod. And then once you get in the escape pod, the mission's over. So that was happening. And we were playing with Stefan and Eddie. Bobby saved Stefan, and then I don't know where Eddie was, but he went down, and I was like, well, Eddie, sorry, there's not a lot of time left for you. We got to get out of here. And then but Bobby's like, no, I'll get you. And I don't know what Bobby did because I ran the fuck out of there. But
I grappled up to where Eddie was. I killed all the bugs. I saved him, and then I left.
Yeah, Bobby saved him, and that was just like a fun little thing. And those kind of moment-to-moment gameplay things happen all the time. Like there's constantly little things like that where it's like, oh, you just narrowly beat this, or something weird or funny or goofy happened at any given time. So yeah, it's been a really great game. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I'm going to put more time into it. I'm excited to play it. Yeah.
Did we figure out, or did you answer this to me? If you already answered this when I asked you, my bad, I forgot. But is there crossplay or not?
Yeah, so I think right now it is cross-play between PlayStations. So I'm playing with my brother-in-law Sean and Chris, and they're on PS4s, and then I'm on a PS5. And I think
it's free for both right now, right?
Yeah, it's on PlayStation Plus. So if you have Plus, you can play it and download it for free. And then I think PC and Xbox you can play with each other, but I don't think you can play PC to PS4, PS5. And hopefully they can change that, because Back 4 Blood does it. There's other games that have full crossplay, but I have not heard that you can do that. And maybe I'm wrong. I might need to look into that more. But yeah, that's my understanding of it.
It's really fun though, Mike. We got to get in on. It's one of those games I think I would only play with other people because it seems like that type of game just for me.
Right.
But I would, you got to get in on a game with us. That was fun.
Yeah. And it's free, so can't beat that. I did want to mention a couple more things before I wrap up. One of my favorite games, and Bobby, you're a little familiar with this because Up, Down, Down talked about it a lot. They are making a sequel to Windjammers that comes out on the 20th. And Windjammers is a Neo Geo game that is very popular in arcades and was basically a game that you couldn't really play on console until they had a digital release of it 2-3 years ago on PS4, and the .emu, the developers that ported that over to PlayStation, have made a sequel, which really seemed unheard of. It was definitely a very niche game, and it was a treat just to be able to get a console version of it because it was so kind of unknown and not a lot of people were clamoring for it. So just to get a port of it was fantastic. To get a whole new version of it is really exciting. So it actually comes out on the 20th. I'm very much looking forward to that. And I failed to mention the last couple of weeks, I have kind of gotten into, I don't know really what started this, but I started looking up like boxing video games on YouTube, and I started finding a lot of videos for the Hajime no Ippo 2 that was released in Japan. And the Hajime no Ippo games on PlayStation 2 were easily one of my favorite boxing games. Besides Fight Night Champion, I think they were my favorite boxing games. The second version that was only in Japan had one of the best career modes. And it was this thing that I always heard about.
Career mode for Hajime no Ippo?
Yes. So you can make, like Mikey might like this, you can make your own fighter. And it's detailed to a point that, like, I don't know if we've ever seen another game like this before, where it's like you had to dictate what they were eating. You had to, have their training regimen. If they were eating too many like fatty acids, they gained too much weight, and you couldn't cut weight.
Is this Victorious Boxers?
Yeah. This is Victorious.
Well, we fought the bear.
Yes. That's part of the anime.
That was excellent.
So unfortunately, the ones that came out in the States were the first Hajime no Ippo for PlayStation 2, which was a really good game, but gameplay was a little wonky. The sequel that came out, Victorious Boxers 2, in the States, was actually the third game that came out in Japan, which was weird because it's actually the same as the second game, except they removed this really cool career mode. So what's cool about the career mode is not only was it extremely detailed, but depending on when you start your career, you could actually run into the characters that were in Hajime no Ippo. So you can be in the 125 weight class, and if you're fighting in the 80s, you fight Dante and Ricardo Gonzalez and those guys, which was kind of interesting. But yes, I kind of fell into this pit of watching, because apparently there's a bunch of YouTubers right now that are discovering that game. And also I didn't know they came out with a PSP game that didn't have the Hajime no Ippo license. It was just called Boxers Road 2 The Real. And that is just the career mode. So I'm watching a lot of people play that, and it looks really cool and interesting. And I'd really love to get my hands on it.
We played the original, right? When I played with you, that was the original. Only the first one that had the English release.
I honestly can't remember if that was the first or second one.
Well, the second one didn't have an English release.
No.
So I'm trying to find this on YouTube.
There's 3 PS2 versions that came out in Japan. 1 and 3 came out in the States.
So All Stars.
Yes, All Stars. And 3 is just the same as 2, except they took out this really fucking cool career mode, which I really wish they would have left in.
So I'm going to say for sure the one we played was the first one, because the first one came out about 2 days before your birthday in 2001.
Yes. Yeah, I remember it was right around my birthday.
And the third one, which was second in the U.S., didn't come out until 2006. Mm-hmm. And we were in college. I think it was definitely we were in high school.
I can't go back and play this.
Okay.
Like,
I just remember the bear was hilarious.
It would be one thing if like I had played this back in like 2003, 2004, but I can't willingly go back and play something with graphics like this.
No, I mean, what I really loved about the Hajime no Ippo games, and this is all leading me to the series, the first season, which is like 75 episodes, which I think is really like 3 seasons. They have 3 different opening and ending credits, are all on Blu-ray, and I ended up getting all those, and I'm watching it again because this is one of my favorite animes. But what I really liked about that game, no HUD. There's no health bar, there's no stamina. All those things are conveyed within the game itself, so you basically can tell how well your fighter's doing because he's moving really slow, which means his stamina's low. Or when he's getting hit, his reactions to getting hit are much more, embellished. So it did a lot of things that other games just weren't doing at the time. I mean, graphically, it is not the prettiest game in the world. It definitely is of that era. But I was always a really big fan of it. And that kind of led me to finding out they released Blu-rays of the animated series, and I've been watching that. And I never really watched it dubbed. And it's not great. It's not a great dub, especially having watched the subtitles and even not speaking Japanese. You can just tell by the inflections and the translations, like things just carried a little bit more weight in the dubbed when they're speaking it, and things I just don't think it was localized super well. But it's still incredibly enjoyable. I really love that anime.
When you started saying Hajime no Ippo, I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mike's eyes lit up like it was Christmas. He was like, "Oh, awesome!"
I
never played these games?
No.
I think he's just excited about the anime.
I was just excited to hear Hajime no Ippo, talk.
No, like I mean, this was fucking 20 years ago, but like I remember that game was really fun. I remember playing it with I remember thinking like, this is just really well done. I mean, the bear stuff's a novelty, but like in general, the game was awesome. I thought the first one, at least the one I played with you, was really fun. So.
Takamura actually fought that bear. All right.
There's did you play the PS3 one?
No, I've watched some gameplay of the other ones. There's one on Wii too, and they were by different developers, and it just didn't really have the same gameplay style that those PS2 ones did. Because those guys that did the PS2 ones, they went on to make a PSP Hajime no Ippo, and then this Boxer's Road, and it's really that career mode that's really interests me, because it's just like, that career mode is probably the best boxing career mode I've ever seen, outside of all the nuances of like, you have to dictate your diet and make sure your weight's in place and stuff. It's like you start ranking up nationally, internationally, and world titles, and then you can move up as many weight classes. There's really no restrictions. So just watching these other guys play is like, okay, yeah, I'm going for the national title. Now I got that. I'm ranked so high in the world title. And now after I've captured 2 world titles, I'm going to move up weight classes and become undisputed. And it's just like, it's really in depth. And a lot of the guys I'm watching are playing this because they're waiting for the next boxing game, which there hasn't been one in ages. It's called Esports Boxing Club, which is a really shitty name, but it looks really interesting. That game looks promising, and people are kind of filling the void until that comes out. And it does seem like a whole group of these people in that kind of atmosphere have caught on to Hajime no Ippo's career mode and really have gone into it. And it's all in Japanese, so it is a little bit difficult to navigate and understand what's going on, but it's been fun to watch. I've been watching, a number of YouTubers kind of play out their careers and having a good time watching it. So yeah, that's what I got this week.
All right, guys. Well, we're back. We were back last week talking about fights. This week we're talking about a pay-per-view. So we'll see what happens. We'll see who the heavyweight champion is, who the flyweight champion is come next week. I believe we pretty quickly go into a card right after this one, if I'm not mistaken. This one is this Saturday, the 22nd. And then on we got a week off. February 5th, my birthday.
Nice.
Sean Strickland, assuming he doesn't get charged with any crimes between now and then, is taking on Dancing Jack Hermanson. This is a real Just Some Fights.
Yep.
Card. This is a real Just Some Fights.
Putting them up.
I will not be spending my birthday watching this. Unless Sean Strickland does something illegal, which I will very quickly pick up my phone and watch the highlights of. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. It's great to have Corona Gooms back. See, I used it.
There you go. Nice. That's a call.
Nice.
Corona Gooms is back. So we'll be back next week. We'll see who got any new champions. We'll see if Francis Ngannou punches Dana White, possibly. That'd be awesome. I'm just waiting for he wins this fight. Dana tries to get the belt. He's not going to punch him, but Dana tries to get in the cage, and Francis just bellows, "This is my cage!" Just scares him away. That's what I'm looking for. Till then, until next week, I was Dr. Law. That was DJ Mark. And that was Lavender Gooms, a.k.a. Corona Gooms, just this week. Thank you all so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And how about them Niners? Fuck the Cowboys. Peace out.
Yeah.